Have you ever been on a beginner overland trip? Hi everybody, I'm Rob, and this is Stormcrow Overland, where we talk about going on adventures, road tripping, camping, and just generally getting out and enjoying life. Now this week's episode, we're going to talk about an event that OKC Overland put on this month called, it was the OKC Overland Beginner Newbie Run, or Beginner Run. And we went and did the Sugar Creek Loop here in central Oklahoma, and we took a group of people that was all brand new. I say we, I was there, I helped. I did not organize it. This was organized by my buddy Ben at Vegas here Overland. I'll put a link to his channel down there like I always do. And a quick reminder, he needs to make more videos. This is where you should have made a video, bro. But he was busy. He organized the whole run. He led the run. It was his idea. It was great. I was there just to kind of help out, help answer questions. I was the tail gunner in the back to make sure we didn't lose anybody or anything like that. We had no problems, so that was great. But the whole idea is, some people are just anxious or intimidated or whatever word you want to use. That some of them don't sound quite right, but whatever you want to say, they didn't want to go out and do this on their own. They wanted to go do it with a group, which is a good idea in case something happens. Here in Oklahoma, if you're in central-ish Oklahoma, the Sugar Creek Loop is a great place to go and get started because it's fairly easy. It's well mapped out. It's well known. There's GPX files for it. There's videos about it, so you can kind of see what you're getting into. It's pretty. There's neat things to see. There's some historical spots on the whole route, and there's a couple of spots that kind of get technical. I mean, they're really not. It depends on the weather and stuff. Luckily on this trip, it was probably the easiest I've ever seen it. So it was really nice for some beginner people, but just enough that, hey, we can put it in four-wheel drive maybe, just for like this little climb or something through Purgatory Road, or just to kind of work through things. So I thought this was a great idea when Ben brought it up. I think it's great to help show new people how to do things and how to do things the right way. So what Ben did was, we discussed it. We were okay. Let's do this. We picked a date. We had to reschedule because of weather. But that's a whole other thing. But he kind of did a really good job of putting out a list of like, hey, here's the things you probably should bring. None of it was like, oh, if you don't have this, you can't go with us. But it was just suggestions, things like a GMRS radio. And he included a link to like, hey, here's the Radioddity GM30, I think is the one. It's $30. It's pretty good. It's probably better than a Baofeng, but it's not super expensive. So if this isn't your thing, you're not wasting a lot of money. He was also smart to include like, hey, you need a GMRS license, and here's the link to where you go do that. It's $35 for 10 years and covers your whole family. Encouraged everyone to make sure you're doing that and doing it the right way. I talked about, bringing water and bringing snacks and recovery gear. And like I said, real basic level stuff. We weren't doing like a hardcore recovery class where we've got multiple, what are they called? We weren't like changing rope direction and doing multi-line pulls and stuff. It was just like, hey, maybe have some kind of recovery point for your vehicle. Like if you've got a receiver hitch, maybe one of the little things that go in there where you can put a shackle. Have something. We weren't expecting anybody to get stuck, but like I said, we picked the route on purpose for beginners. But it was neat. The day of, we all kind of met up early on a Saturday morning. Everybody kind of gathered up. It was good. We gathered up at this little park, and once everybody was there, Ben did a fairly short but thorough presentation going over things like, hey, these are how GMRS radios work. We're going to be on this channel. Made sure everybody could get their radios on that channel. Somebody, I think someone had a weird problem where their radio it wanted a frequency and not a channel, or the channels didn't match everybody else's channels, something like that. So we had to play with it a little bit, but went through and talked about the radios and gave everybody a judgment-free zone of, hey, this is all beginners. Ask questions. If you have a question and you're afraid it's a dumb question, this is the perfect place to ask it, because we expect that y'all are beginners and you don't know, and that's okay. we want to help. We want to explain. We want to show you. So we did that with the radios. Several people had questions about ham radio stuff as well. A little more advanced stuff. So we went over some of that. Did some minor recovery talk. Like I said, we didn't really expect to have any recovery problems, and we didn't. It was smooth all day. But just some real basics like, winch, recovery boards, talking about some of it, how it works. Also, made sure everyone knew how to put their vehicle like in four-wheel drive, or four-low, or four-height. We didn't really need four-low for this trip, but we kind of went over just to make sure people were familiar with how it works. So like, how do they turn their lockers on? Or how do they need it? When would they turn their lockers on? When would they need four-wheel drive? Tried to go over little basic things like that. We didn't camp on this trip, so we didn't touch on camping a whole lot. But toward the end, we did kind of start going over some tread lightly principles. Not necessarily the organization itself, but just the ideas of, hey, we're going to stay on the trail. We're not going to leave any trash. We're going to leave things better than we found it. We're not going to tear stuff up, or we're going to respect private property, things like that. And that's where I think these kind of newbie things really come in handy and are important. You're always going to have some people that are going to go out and tear things up because they just don't care. And those people, you may or may not be able to reach them, but I think it's good because there are going to be some people that really just don't know any better. They don't understand. They're like, oh, I'm off-roading. Why would I stay on the trail? Or the whole thing's off-road, right? I'd hate to think this way, but maybe there's people that don't realize, hey, you need to make sure you pick your trash up. But it was good to go over it with all these people and be like, hey, this is how we do things, and this is why. And we want to make sure that we're not getting things closed down. And we talked about some of the trail closures going on in Utah and in Arkansas and stuff like that, just to make sure everybody understood why this stuff's important. Overall, I think it was a huge success. We had, let me think, counting me and Ben's vehicles, we had 14. So we had 12 new people vehicles, and several of them had a passenger or two. So we had right around 20 people. The whole thing was just great. We had all kinds of vehicles. We had a handful of Jeeps. We had 2 Subarus. We had a 2-wheel drive F-150. It was a father and son that normally do sports car stuff. They do like autocross and SCCA stuff. And they brought their tow vehicle out, their F-150 that they used to tow their race car trailer. They brought it to go try it out because it was something different. It was really neat. I was trying to think. I think we had a Tundra maybe. I probably should have went back and looked at the pictures. But we had a really good mix of vehicles, good variety. I'm kind of an idiot sometimes. I knew I was going to be in the very back of the convoy to help kind of watch and make sure we didn't lose anybody, and if there was a problem. It was such a beautiful and gorgeous day, which is awesome because I want people to get out and have a good time. It would suck if we went out with new people and the weather was crappy and they had a miserable time. You don't want that. But the weather was so pretty that I had to have my windows down, and it's dirt roads and like clay, sandy dirt roads. It's pretty thick sand. The inside of my vehicle was just covered in dust. I had to go home, even with the snorkel, I had to blow out my air filter. I had to blow out my interior. It was amazing how much sand and dust was just coming out of stuff like my seats and my dash as I'm sitting there with the air compressor. But it worked. And if you've never tried that, if your interior is real dusty, blow it out with the air compressor. It works amazing. But we got to see all kinds of great sights along the route. There's some mounds out in that part of Oklahoma that settlers heading west in wagon trains used to use for navigational aids. They're like, okay, you aim at those and head that way. There's caves there. There used to be an old schoolhouse there, I think is what it was. It was either a house or a school, and they had a root cellar where you could store stuff, if to keep it at the right temperatures underground. So we stopped there, let everybody take some pictures and stuff. Did Purgatory Road, which is always a highlight because it doesn't even look like Oklahoma. You're going through this pretty narrow road. It's basically just one lane, and you've got these dirt clay ridges that are 10, 12 feet tall on both sides of the vehicle. You're going down in this trench basically. it is neat. And sometimes it's so washed out that you couldn't get a Jeep on 40s up it. Other times it's nice and smooth, and a stock Subaru can go up without a problem. And ours did. We had two Subarus, and they had no problems going up. No one really had a problem getting up Purgatory Road, which is great. That was the only part we were mildly worried about. It's got a fairly easy bypass in case it was a problem, but it wasn't. And then we ended up at the 3/4 point of the loop. There's an old gas station. I forget the name of the town, but it was the gas station that was in the movie Rain Man. So a lot of times we kind of stop there, take some more picture. We got a good group picture with all the cars. And from that point back to the beginning of the loop, there's not a whole lot left. So a lot of us kind of broke off at that point and started heading back home. Because for most of us, it's about an hour drive home. It is for me. But man, it was a great time. We had an abundance of great people. Everyone that showed up was awesome. We had a handful that had to duck out early and stuff because they had other commitments, but they still wanted to come out, meet some of the group, try it out, get a chance to do this stuff in a safer environment. Safer is not the right word. A more comfortable environment. So if something does go wrong, they got someone there to help just in case. Starting new things can be scary sometimes, and it's nice to have help. But man, it couldn't have gone better. Like I said, good turnout, good group, great weather. The trail was great. I say trail, it's not even really a trail. I try to avoid saying that, but Oklahoma people know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. They've heard us say it before. But it was a great time. And if you're out there and you have an overland group of some part you're involved in, whether it's a Facebook group or just a group of buddies, I encourage you to do stuff like this, especially early in the season, kind of in springtime when people are starting to get out more. Do a beginner event, something fairly easy, something nice and low threat. You've got people out there that have the vehicles and are interested and just don't know how to get started, don't know where to go, or worried about going out by themselves. Have these events. Grow our industry, grow this hobby, and grow it the right way by getting good people and teaching them good habits to start with. Explain why we do things the way we do it, to keep making overlanding better for everyone. And this is the more good people we have out doing overland things and doing things the right way, the better it's going to be for everybody. I kind of touched on it in my other video. We were talking about has overlanding reached its peak or not. But we want people out there overlanding the right way, the good way that gets things not shut down and kind of helps give us a good reputation. So this is a good way for you to kind of give back. I'm sure, I don't care if you're the most awesomest, best overlander ever, I'm sure at some point someone helped you. I'm sure someone helped you, showed you how to do something, and this is how you can kind of give back a little bit. I'm always a big fan of doing trail cleanups and stuff like that to kind of give back. But this is the best way. Get those new people, show them how to do things, help grow the hobby. It's it's personally rewarding because you just feel good. You see these people out having a great time. You see these huge smiles on their face, enjoying things that how fun they are. And they're getting to do it for the first time and you're helping them. It feels great. And then those people are going to be around more. And then hopefully down the road, they can help show other new people, or they're going to go back to their office and be like, oh, I got to go do such a cool thing. Maybe you should come with me next time. This is how we grow things the right way. Like I said, I encourage you to go out and do it. I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But yeah, it's amazing. If you're watching this video on YouTube, just realize we also release the audio as a podcast. You can find it wherever good podcasts are found. Just search Stormcrow Overland. If you are listening to it as a podcast, we also release the video on YouTube. Just search Stormcrow Overland. And finally, you can find us on Instagram at Stormcrow Overland or on Gmail. You can send me a message there at stormcrowoverland@gmail.com. On any of those platforms, I would really appreciate a like, comment, follow, subscribe. I try to get back to everybody that reaches out to me. But on any of those, send me a message. Let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on this? Have you done other newbie rides? Have you done other stuff to help get new people involved? Do you have a really good idea on a better way to do it or a different way to do it? I would like to do, at least here, we're probably going to try to figure out how to do an easy beginner, like fairly close to home camp out, just to, you know, hey, this is how you camp, this is how you cook at camping, this is how you go to the bathroom when there's not a bathroom around, and stuff like that. We're probably gonna do something like that coming up, just to kind of add to this. But what are y'all's thoughts? What are y'all's ideas? Well, I guess that's really all I have for you this week. So just remember, sometimes you have to go out and get lost, and maybe take a few new people with you before you can find yourself. Thanks for watching.